Hello and welcome to HMS Penelope. I like Penelope. It's one of those names in the Royal Navy which I have a fair amount of respect for, even though it does come from Greek mythology. And as we all know, I do have a lot of problems with Greek mythology. It's named for a faithful wife, basically the wife of Odysseus, and frankly, I have some problems with Odysseus. But Penelope, I have no problems with. I think she does a very good job and probably runs the kingdom slightly better than Odysseus does. So if anyone does deserve a ship named after her, Penelope does. And fidelity, well, honestly, HMS Penelopes do have a habit of being incredibly loyal to the Royal Navy and doing a fairly decent job if you look at the barring actually the first HMS Penelope, which was captured by the Spanish prisoners in 1780. The rest have proved very good little ships, very loyal. They've never been anything really massive which has been called HMS Penelope. I think the largest is probably, in terms of status, is the Arethusa Class light cruiser, which is the subject of this video. All the rest have been 24, 32, 36, 46 gun fifth rates. Although the HMS Penelope 1829 did become a paddle frigate. And we'll get into all that in a little bit. So, the Arethusa class are a destroyer personality in a cruiser wrapping. I say this because of their aggression in combat and because they do so much. They really are aggressive little ships. Anyway, background. As I said, look at how cool they are. The Arethusa class light cruisers. I don't care what it is. The moment you hear the phrase Arethusa class light cruiser, it doesn't matter whether it's 1913, the 1913 edition, or the 1934 edition. They look good. I think it's the name, you know. Honestly, the more I look into them, and the more I've always looked into them because I enjoyed them, the more I am convinced that if you want to make the Type 31s really look swish, call them the Arethusa class, because by gum, it just seems to be the name. Arethusa class comes in, and all those ships, I'm not sure why, but they all look good. They look good. Look them up through history. Find me an ugly looking Arethusa class that's as built, not as it's being converted to some weird job. I'm talking about the class as built. They all look good. They do. And they serve. And in HMS Penelope's case, look especially good. And there have been a lot of them. Even after the 8th, which was 997, and again, the topic of this discussion, there is a Leander class frigate version, which is launched in 1962 and is sold to Ecuador, which I don't think is still in service, as far as I understand it. I think she was decommissioned in 2008, so she has been scrapped, but she'd go and serve Ecuador as Presidente Eloy Alfaro. So, you know, again, serving very well. I like these ships. And look how good she looks. She is gorgeous. And look at her career. Yes, she is lost in 1944 to U-410. That can't be helped. But she serves with Force K. She takes part in Operation EJ, an operation which, honestly, unless you do some study, you don't really hear much about in World War II, but actually did quite well. It was a very interesting air attack on German shipping in Glom Fjord, which caused the Germans a lot of worry. She partners up with a Triber-class destroyer, HMS Eskimo, merely to be towed off a fjord, and then has to have her entire bottom rebuilt. But, you know, it's there, it's good, and she survives that. She takes part in Force K and also serves in Force Q at one point, if I remember correctly. Yes, she serves in Force Q between 43 and, well, when she sunk. but also takes part in Force X at one point. But Force Q is what she's a part of for Operation Avalanche, and I think also for Operation Stonewall, which I haven't mentioned there, but she takes part in that, the anti-blockade run duties, and does all sorts of little operations. Operation Shingle, the amphibious assault on Anzio. She takes part in so many operations. She is a very, very active ship. And it's one of the things I find kind of cruel, because when I look at her battle honours, there aren't really that big a list. The reason is because these operations aren't battle honours sometimes. They're just grouped together under Mediterranean or this or that. And frankly, I find that a bit cruel. But she's a good little ship. And she does serve very well. When she's eventually sunk, she's taken out by 2 torpedoes, which is honestly not a nice way to go. And one arrives 16 minutes after the other. So she's hit first in the after engine room, which is right aft. So that's just past the aft funnel in the ship's design. And then she's hit under in the after boiler room, which is just below the aft funnel. Honestly, surprise. In her hull design. So you can work out where the 2 torpedoes go in. And having 2 torpedoes that close together, even though they don't arrive in that close a time, it creates a lot of damage, and she does get sunk. They are the smaller light cruisers. You always have to remember that. These ships are 5,220 tons in standard. 6,665 tons in full load. They're only 154 meters long, 60 meters beam, and have a draft of 4.3 meters. It's a shame, really. If that torpedo had run just even a fraction deep, it'd probably gone straight under. They're good ships. Well, after this, there is a list here for her 1940 configuration. So this had actually been adapted by 1942, but I've got a list here which I found originally on. I found a mention of it on Wikipedia, and then I went and hunted down and found it was true. So I thought, whoa, that's good. And the August 1940 configuration is 6 6-inch guns in 3 dual mounts, which you can see that's basically as originally. 4 4-inch mounts in 2 4-inch guns in 2 dual mounts, 2 quadruple mount pom-poms, 6 20mm Oerlikons, 2.5-inch quadruple machine gun mounts, which are those rather interesting things which the Royal Navy keeps flirting with, because on theory that's a lot of firepower for dealing with aircraft coming in short range. But in practice, it turns out to, let's get a 20mm cannon, let's get a 40mm cannon, let's get something bigger, because you need the stopping power. It's always nice to, in theory, the smaller gun will work, but in practice, yeah. And 6 21-inch torpedoes in 2 treble torpedo launchers. So they're a capable little ship, but they are a little ship. And they have been 1 to 3 inches of armor protection magazines. They have a 2.25 and 2.25-inch belt, and 1-inch armor protecting deck, turrets, and bulkheads. I think by this point, especially in 1942 as pictured, they don't have, the aircraft has been removed. At least they're no longer talking about aircraft operations. And mainly these ships are operating not in the Pacific or the Indian Ocean or the South Atlantic, where you need aircraft. They're operating in the Mediterranean. They're operating in the North Sea and North Atlantic, where if you need an aircraft, there's probably either a cruiser around which has a spotter aircraft, or more likely an aircraft carrier or even a land-based aircraft around. There are, in other words, that gives you space and tonnage to carry more AA guns, which are useful. Now, as I said, she does get nicknamed, I mentioned in the previous slide. First, HMS Pepperpot, and she has a whole lot of holes in her. And then she gets named HMS Porcupine, because those holes are filled with sticks of wood. And this comes about because she gets mildly damaged, really, in terms of damage ships take, and has to hang around in Malta for quite a bit longer than she was planning on doing, and gets raked every day by various German, Italian, and other aircraft, just attacking her. When I say other aircraft, German, Italian, there's one story of a German pilot going up in an Italian aircraft and doing it, and I'm not sure whether that counts as a German attack or an Italian attack, because it's an Italian aircraft, but it's a German pilot. So, and I'm not even sure if that attack really is a true account, but, it's an interesting story. And she's getting raked, certainly, by enough aircraft that, frankly, there are many plausible things. They're all claiming to try and sink her, but actually, they're not. They're just making her into a colander. Yet still, I would argue she still looks good, even as a porcupine. She's so good, in fact, she gets a book based after her. The Ship by C.S. Forrester. Please find a link below, because it's a very, very good. C.S. Forrester is, of course, the person who writes the Hornblower series and other things. I honestly prefer this book, but that's my personal preference. And as I said, you can find a link down below to it in my Amazon link. What else have we got coming up this month? Well, we've passed the ships that Fisher scrapped. So we've got Taranto coming up, and then we've got long patrols, Suez Crisis, Norway, Amphion Class. 12th and 17th are already recorded. 15th is going to be written next week, honestly. And, well, it's been compiled. It's going to be written up next week. Then Wednesday the 18th of November, again, you'll find a link down below. History from Home lecture series, Norway 1940. Then there's Patron 10. If the Trent Affair had gone hot, how badly would it have gone for the US Navy? Courtesy of the CIA. Not sure how they always get their suggestions through to win. Blue Ships 26, the Random Collection. Tuesday 24th, the effect of Patron 11, the effect of the early jet age and how it affected naval warfare strategy tactics. The Fairy Story on the 26th. And 29th, Blue Ships 27, bestseller history. And Monday the 30th, Patron 12, the Battle of Slees. Is Major General JCFC Fleur correct to declare it one of the Western world's most decisive battles? I'll be polite and say it's an interesting contestation. Anyway. And then it gets into December. And I got Town class cruisers and the RN's paper cruisers. So, honestly, I think I need to play some World of Warships to try and get myself some pictures and decent graphics of those RN paper cruisers. Or ask someone if they can get me some video of them that I'm allowed to use. We're going to have to check World of Warships. Anyway, thank you very much. Take care. Hope you enjoyed HMS Penelope, and hope you look up some more about her, because she's a very cool little ship. And as I said, there is never an ugly looking Arethusa class. They just don't know how to look bad. Thank you. Take care.